Whenever I hear about a hate crime, I am shocked and saddened.
I give a damn. Do you?
I give a damn. I'm horrified when I hear about people being victimized. So, on the surface, I should be glad that America wages a war on hate and that hate crimes bring longer sentences and that police get more money to investigate them. And that's how it should be, says Paul Legendre. He runs the Fighting Discrimination program at a group called Human Rights First. But Jimmy LaSalvia is co-founder of Go Proud, a Republican gay advocacy group. He says, wait a second, hate crime laws are not useful. But how can you say that? You've been a victim yourself.
Absolutely. I was on a bike about a year ago, and a guy came out into the street. He was in a pack of kids, and he came out into the street and punched me and called me a anti-gay name. And as I was trying to collect myself off the ground, I was reaching into my backpack for my phone. And one of the other kids asked him, is that a gun? Is he going for a gun? And I just let him think that, because it was that thought that I might have a weapon that turned the tide of that situation and prevented me from being a victim of a horrible, violent crime.
And why not more protection with hate crime laws?
Well, I just don't think there's any evidence that they're preventing crimes before they happen. That's what we need to focus on. We can't ignore the fact that certain segments of the population are targets for violent crimes simply because of who they are, but we need to look at the evidence and come up with ways to actually help prevent people from becoming victims of crime, rather than giving them a false sense of security that there's this law out there that's going to keep them from being a victim of a hate crime.
And I'd like to jump in here. I don't believe that hate crime laws are the sole answer to hate crime. I think it's a criminal justice response. But let me step back for 1 second. I think we're all in agreement with the first main point, and that is that violent attacks that target people because of their identity runs fundamentally contrary to American values. Hate crime as a concept is an important one to recognize and to understand.
Why? Because there's hate in so many crimes. Why does the race or gender make a difference?
Hate crime is perhaps a misnomer. They're really biased crimes in which people are targeted because of their identity. What hate crime laws do is they embed in the criminal justice system the notion of a hate crime, which is a particularly egregious type of offense. It requires law enforcement to document them, to understand them, to identify them, and to release and to prosecute them, including, in some cases, with enhanced penalties. It also requires them to release data on an annual basis about the level of hate crime, and that creates a broader understanding in society about what needs to be done to combat them.
We're drowning in laws in America already. We had the Civil Rights Act, hate crimes for race, religion, national origin. Then we got the Violent Crime Act, which increased the penalties. Then Matthew Shepard was killed, and we expanded it to sexual orientation and disability. The Justice Department says victimizations have been stable since 2004.
They've perhaps been stable, but stable at a very high level. A recent report
does the law make a difference?
The law does make a difference.
The person thinks about, oh, there's a hate crime law?
No, I can tell you, I had a conversation with a transgender woman in California, and she said to me, it doesn't matter what the law says. No law is going to change the fact that when some people look at me, they see a man in a dress. That's only going to change with time and understanding. And that's the difference we're having, is we're not disagreeing over the fact that there's a problem. We're disagreeing over the fact that the government's the solution on this.
This example reminds me of the contortions the police go through to be politically correct about this. The FBI now has a hate crime manual, and they say avoid offensive terms like sexual preference, transvestite, crossdresser. So, like, what are they supposed to say? I mean, what do we gain from this?
I think people often feel like when they're a victim of a crime, we want a society in which they feel comfortable going to law enforcement. I think victims of hate crime often come from marginalized communities, and if they don't trust law enforcement to understand their victimization and assure them that their crimes will be taken seriously.
Well, I'm all for being sensitive to victims. I think that's important, but I don't think it matters what you call somebody. Let's focus on policies and things that we can do to prevent from calling them a victim.
Let me bring in this issue. In that anti-hate crime commercial that began this segment, actress Wanda Sykes said this.
Imagine walking down the street and wondering if this is the day that you'll get beaten up or even killed simply because of who you are.
I would say to Wanda, is passing a law going to change the fact that some people walk down the street and wonder if they're going to be attacked simply because of who they are? I don't think the law has anything to do with it. It's about raising awareness and not penalties.
And again, it may not be that every potential victim of a hate crime walks down the street in perpetual fear, but I think religious people may not go to mass or synagogue as frequently as they might like. Immigrants who are afraid of attack may limit their movements. I think it runs contrary to our freedom of movement, which is a fundamental principle here in the United States.
Well, I think you're right. I just think we need to focus on what's going to help prevent those. And
Paul, do you think we have too many laws in America?
I think we don't have enough hate crime laws. I think there is more work. I'm not going to comment
on that, Paul, Jimmy, thank you. And I want to end this segment with my point of view. So here it is expressed by America's greatest philosophers, the kids from South Park.
Cartman throws a rock at Token, a black student. The school planned to give Cartman 2 weeks detention, but then the FBI came to say,
I'm afraid it's a bit more complicated than that, Mr. School Counselor. You see, since the victim in this case is African American, this is considered a hate crime.
What turns a normal, fat little 8-year-old boy into a vicious hate crime committing racist?
Cartman's lectured by the judge.
If you want to hurt another human being, you better make sure they're the same color as you are.
Then the kids complained to the governor.
If somebody kills somebody, it's a crime. But if someone kills somebody of a different color, it's a hate crime.
And we think that that is a savage hypocrisy, because all crimes are hate crimes. If a man beats another man because that man was sleeping with his wife, is that not a hate crime?